Great day, everyone. Ed Dudley. You know where I am. I'm in Durham, North Carolina. I ain't going anywhere. Happy day, everyone. I hope you're doing well, whether it's the day, the afternoon, and the evening, wherever you're tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. I am, I'm always excited because, yeah, you see who I'm with today. So it's always a special day when I'm with my girlfriend over in South Africa. I'm her only boyfriend in the United States. Though she has many boyfriends from the age 40 to 94, I'm proud to say that I'm the only one in the United States for now. Hi, Charmaine.
Boyfriends. Hello, everyone. It's always fabulous to be in your energy, Zulu Ed, so I'm excited. I do need to correct it, though. My boyfriends range from the age of 4 to
Okay.
94, not 40 to 94. So
Oh,
I love I love kids and men and human beings of all
mhm.
ages, actually, that can actually have a conversation and contribute to my learning.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Okay.
you are
Okay.
my favorite boyfriend in the US. I'm extremely excited today, like I'm always,
Uh-huh.
because you bring so much good energy, good vibe, and we get to speak to dynamic people from all over the world that has so much value to give. And I'm excited, particularly today, because this one particular person is the CEO of an organization that I sit on the board, and he does such amazing things here in South Africa, but not just here, but also in the different continents. A great dad and a great human being, actually. And I hope whoever listens today, we get to break the stereotypes that many of us grew up with.
Mm.
Um, so, yeah, I'm looking forward to this
All right. So
conversation.
let's bring this gentleman, and I'm going to let you introduce him today. Welcome.
Welcome to the Ubuntu House, Mr. Willem Groenewald. How are you?
Zulu, Charmaine, I'm great. Thank you very much for having me.
It's an
And
absolute pleasure to actually have you. Besides being the CEO of an organization, which the Automobile Association of South Africa. Tell us a little bit more. Tell our listeners a little bit more about you and what gets you excited.
well, I am in the range of 4 to 94, so there's no competition in the US, but there is plenty of competition in South Africa on the boyfriend range, Charmaine. So, but let's just say we know who the favorites are, and we'll leave it at that.
I love all of you. You're amazing, and I'm blessed to have you guys as friends, actually. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks so much. It's so awesome to spend some time with you. It's great to share a bit of my life story. Born in 1972, I'm proud to say I'm in my 40s, and I'll keep on saying that until the 9th of September coming up very soon. So I am breaking and holding on to everything I can for my 40s, but September is the big 5-0. And having said that, having grown up in an era where, as a child, kids don't understand politics and color and all those things. So growing up, I mean, we grew up. I'm the youngest of kids, and we grew up in the thick of the apartheid era. Going on holiday. As a child, never understanding the divide when you go to a beach and these whites only signs up, but yet when you go home, growing up on a farm. Although my dad never owned a farm, my dad farmed for farmers that owned the farm. Be that as it may, we played soccer with kids, and my best friend on the farm was Stanley, and Stanley and I played soccer, and we did whatever we did. But there was always this divide for political reasons, which I never understood. And going through the years, through the whole of my school career, I recall going to local quarries and building catchies together and playing all sorts of games and going to compounds and making putupap within Stanley's home and spending time there and going to the mealie fields and plucking maize corn and brying maize on bolas inside of the huts was nothing strange for us. So it's a bit of a lost generation coming through there, and then the stereotypes of being a white Afrikaner male, growing up on a farm with a name like Willem Groenewald. I mean, heaven's sakes, Willem Groenewald. It doesn't get more Afrikaans than that, eh? But yet, it's the funniest thing. We were traveling to Mozambique some years ago, and I'm not your conventional Afrikaner male because I dress like an Englishman and I speak like one too. So when I speak Afrikaans, Afrikaners respond in English, which is the most bizarre thing, which is hilarious to me. But be that as it may, the other thing is I'm borderline vegan. I don't eat anything that bleeds. I do not consume any lactose products. I don't consume yogurts or cheeses because although I like cows, they don't like me. It makes me sick. So typically, it's the funniest thing. My partner and I went hiking in the Drakensberg, and we bumped into a crowd from Pretoria, English bunch of people. Introduced myself as Willem, and he goes, "Oh, do you support the Bulls? They're playing tomorrow." I said, "Oh, well, I don't. Secondly, I don't watch rugby." To those South Africans listening to this, I do apologize. It's sacrosanct. I'm sorry that I'm more of an individual sportsman. I enjoy cycling and triathlon and those kind of sports. I got nothing against it. I'm just not the guy. And I also don't drink. If I do, I'll have half a glass of wine, and then I'm inebriated. So I'm really bad at drinking. I don't eat chops. I do not eat bravos. I don't have brandy and coke. I don't hang out at Loftus. So how's that for being different? But yet, if I introduce myself, you may expect a very different person speaking to you. So I've been fortunate through the years that I've been blessed in my career to have been able to travel extensively, and I spent a lot of time in the Far East. I got to know Buddhist culture and different ways of living and different ways of going through life, and understanding that there's a million answers to the same question. We could argue sitting across the table from one another who's right about whether it's a 6 or a 9. We're both right. It just depends which side you're sitting on. And it's about having appreciation for people's perspectives and just humans' dignity and how we can differ, and how there's many different answers, and how things are different and right. Depending who you're speaking to, it may not be right for me, but it's right for you. So not imposing beliefs on people, but, at the end of it, just doing good and good things happen. It's just a law of nature, isn't it? It doesn't always happen. Often you do good for years, and for years you wait, but it all works out.
It all works out.
It may take a year, it may take 3, it may take 7, but it works out. And one just has to have the patience to believe that it's how it goes, and stay on course. So that's a little bit of a personal background to me. So maybe pause and interject.
If I may just interject, you said so many beautiful things, though. I mean, with your name, there's an automatic assumption that you're a lover of rugby, right? Rugby. The Bulls here, and you come from Pretoria, they support that. Also a lover of meat, and also of the fact that your best friend, nobody would have realized growing up in apartheid South Africa wasn't a young African boy, Stanley, right? There's an assumption that you guys, or racism arose as a result of Afrikaans involvement, and therefore all of you are racist. But that's not the truth, right? And that's what I quite enjoy about you, and the reason I actually invited you to come speak to us is to just demystify all of those myths, though. The bottom line is we all are humans, all championing, most of us are trying to champion good, and you do a lot of that. Talking about going to the beach, I have to actually share, right? And you know how vocal I am, Willem.
Really?
So we used to go. Yeah, I mean, Willem is 2 years younger than I am, so everybody knows my age now, right? So we used to go to the Durban beachfront, like when my dad was off the weekend, and the queues to utilize the loos were like long, and I was like, Mom, they just came out of there. I want to go there, and Mom was like, no, you can't. And I could never understand as to why there was no queues and we were not allowed to go. But that's the way we kind of grew up, though. But we cannot hang on to that. you, me, and Ed are just pouring good into the world to be able to make a difference, that all of us live beautiful lives. And you do a lot of good stuff, Willem. I do want us to actually unpack that now that we got over the fact that you're an Afrikaans man, born up in a farm, don't eat meat, don't drink beer, and don't go to Loftus. Like, damn. Ed, you do rugby's not your thing, right? It's football.
So yeah, so here in the States, there are some rugby teams out there, especially in college, but we really don't, as a country, don't watch rugby. We watch what we call football, which, anyone outside the States is like, that's not football. That's not football. You're not kicking the ball at all. So that's one of our major sports in basketball, but no rugby. I still don't understand it. I like when I see these guys running with the ball and them tackling each other, but still don't understand it.
You can't actually ask Willem to explain it to you, so let's not even have that discussion. Let's
we
move
can
on.
talk about cycling. We talk about cycling and maybe golf.
Yeah.
Willem, as the leader of the AA, you align yourself and you champion so many different things to move South Africa forward, right? And which I love about you. I get to see your mind, your heart, and your soul in the boardroom and outside of the boardroom. What fuels you to do what you do? I mean, there's been a lot of changes in the organization because I've been there for a bit. And with your leadership, there's been a lot of positives that come out of it that has a benefit to all of South Africa, not just a special sector of it. What fuels you to do what you do? And talk to a little bit of the exciting things you've embarked on.
I think to answer your question, we just need to take a small step back,
Sure.
a small journey in my working career. When I finished school, conscription was still a thing, so I had to complete national service in the military back then. So I thought, well, if I had to go, I might as well have fun. Well, what I thought would be fun, to jump out of aeroplanes. So I landed up in the parachute battalion, which was a very tough time, but it was also a very humbling time. And it's a good place to grow up very quickly, from coming out of school and thinking you're something, and then they remind you that you're not that much of anything. So they cut you down and then they build you up. And then landed up working in finance and studying part-time and doing basically any job I could do within finance, and then hopped around every 6 months. And then whoever looked like they didn't want to do their job, I'd volunteer to do their job as well. And then work part-time after hours as well, just to pay for tuition and just to generate some cash. And I was out of army. I was convinced I wanted to get married really, really soon and just build a life, and which I did at 23, but that's a long story. Fast forward to the finance process, I then landed up at Times Media and spent 17 years there, and had 17 wonderful years. And I just had this huge drive and passion for more and better and building and optimizing. And in 2015, after 17 years, I landed up at the latter part of my career, having the privilege of going into what we call sunset businesses and optimizing them and squeezing the life out of them for as long as we can. And it was a wonderful experience in the media space, going from vinyl to cassette to through the phase of VHS and Betacam, and then onto what was the next thing, CDs, and then CD became Blu-ray, and Blu-ray never became much of anything, and then it became digitized. Netflix and Showmax and iTunes came, and Steve Jobs revolutionized everything that the music and media industry knew. But I developed a deep love for fixing businesses, and people call it turnarounds and turnaround strategists and turnaround specialists, but I just say it's just understanding finance and just doing the work. Just roll up your sleeves and just do the work, ask the questions, and go through every line and clean it up. So out of there, I decided I needed a break, and I was very fortunate in the way that I exited in 2015. But I had some time to reflect, and I just I just needed a break. I was principal officer on 15 companies and 7 divisions, and it was concurrent CEO, CFO, and MD in different regions, and it just got a bit much. And I thought I'd take off some time for maybe a year. It lasted 3 months because you can play so much golf and make so much friends, and people run out of, you can only have so much coffee. People have work to do. So, so I got back into it and started a consultancy where I specialize in optimizing businesses in 2016, and I landed my first listed enterprise where I was really fortunate. I've never had to market to find work. It was always through referral. As much as having people out of Dallas call me to help them optimize fishing businesses through Beira, Maputo, Mozambique, Mauritius, and the like. But through all of that, I arrived at a place of working because I truly love what I do. If you had a dinner party and people say, if you had to live your life again, what would you be? Would you be an astronaut or a pilot, or would you be a doctor? I would be exactly me. I absolutely love what I do. I work on 3 pillars, through financial modeling, build business cases by understanding the business. We then optimize workflows by implementing tools that we use. And then you're asking me what drives me. It's a very long way of answering you as to what drives me. People drive me. And caring about people drives me, because there are so many good people out there. And if I've learned one thing working years in supply chain, and I spent a lot of years working in the manufacturing environments with lots of blue-collar workers, there's nothing more beautiful than seeing the dignity of people with little means that is so happy and that is so solid and that is so fantastic as a human being, because they have so much pride. And never do you see it like when you go to a memorial of somebody that's worked in a business for 30 years and somebody's passed away, and they all congregate in a canteen and they start singing as they can do, and everybody's just one. It reminds me a bit of that scene in Avatar when they were holding hands around the tree of life. And it's really that. And if you've been beyond a space in your life where you literally just have to chase the next paycheck and worry about how to make ends meet, and you arrive at a space where you have different motivations and different things that drive you, it makes it worthwhile, and it makes you a far more authentic leader, I would say. And it's a privilege to have experienced that. So every person that works in our organization at a micro level starting there rely on leadership to lead them into the future where they could be protected, to have jobs, because every person that worked there have families that rely on them. They have elderly parents that rely on them, kids that's got to go to school. I mean, what is more amazing than, I won't share names, but we appointed a new person in a senior position the other day, and we had a function at the office where we were playing with the concept of heroes and creating heroes at work, and we had figurines, marble figurines, and one of these figurines found its way home to this little boy of 9 years old, and I got a voice note from him saying, "Mr. Groenewald, thank you so much for my daddy's job," and that kind of thing. I mean, that's incredible to think that you're not responsible in leadership. You're not responsible for yourself and what you can achieve and your next paycheck and how significant you are and how much power you can wield and what you can say, who you are and what you are. I don't care about any of that. In fact, I care nothing about that at all. What I do care about is making changes and difference in people's life. And if you can ascend through the ladders of leadership where people start following you because they believe in what you do, that's leadership. That's what it's about. I was fortunate to do a talk at a side business school in Spain some time ago. The FI University invited me to do a talk on leadership. And what I shared was the significant difference that leaders need to understand between being a boss and being a leader. And if you read any of Maxwell's work, I love reading his work. There's such a vast difference, People may be appointed in positions as a boss, and because they have authority and power, it could be mistaken for leadership. That's not leadership. That's just the position that you hold, and that position is so frail because people get fired all day long. But if you
I'm
can
going
be
to
an authentic
interject.
leader, yes,
You are an authentic leader. Okay. And you gave me a long answer as to what fuels you, right? So money is, you're not driven by money, you're driven by purpose. If you were not as financially secure, would you still be the authentic leader you are now?
I would still apply the same principles,
Okay.
but clearly your propensity to stay balanced and calm and patient, I guess, changes because as your pressures change, our behavior change. And if you look at the quadrants of how we function, depends. Different people behave differently under pressure. Me, if I'm under pressure, I become incredibly focused and I become much more assertive. Other people may become more negotiable. Other people will just put their head in the sand and say, I don't want any of this. And other people would just become passive and say, it's too much for me. So because of my character and nature, the higher the pressure, the higher the focus, and the bigger the drive. And sometimes it could become difficult for people around me when I get into that mode. But, in terms of our organization, the aim is always to do enough work in advance that we're never in a position that we have to live from day to day or scrambling to survive. So if you create an environment where you have sustainability, sufficient cash flow, and where people know it's a safe place to work, then you can make sound decisions. Where if you're under pressure, you could be making mistakes and wrong mistakes by falling into the next solution that may not be right. But the principles are always the same.
Ed, do you have a question?
Yeah, so I just want to go back because you said a lot of great things, but you talked about how people drive you. When did you realize that it wasn't the money, wasn't the positions, the powers? When was it you learned that it was people that drove you? Was that at an early age? Was it when you were in the military or when you got in corporate world?
It's quite a simple answer. My prime objective was to have no debts by the age of 40, and I did everything I can in corporate life. I was the epitome of chasing fame, fortune, and power. And the challenge is, by the time I attained that, traveling a lot and getting home, I had dinner the one night, and my daughter was, I guess she was 12 years old, and she said something to me, and I didn't pay attention. I was on my phone again because I had like 7 mail accounts on my phone, and she said, Dad, you're here, but you're never here. And long story short, by 2015, the damage in my family was so extensive that I got home and my wife and I didn't have much to say to each other because I was just never there. I was just chasing this thing and this independence. And, because of that, it came at a bitterly high price that I realized there are things in this life that is so much more important than chasing financial freedom. And that changed me as a person. And it carried on changing me for 5 years after. We ended up parting in 2016. And it's lessons I'll never forget in my life. And to this day, my daughter's mom and I are very close. She lives 5 k's away. I'm seeing her this weekend. We're exchanging some old furniture. She's bought another place, so I'm getting back some of the stuff. And, we just made a decision. A happy mum makes a healthy child, no matter what our issues are. But the bottom line is that gave me a huge wake-up call, and I fell from grace in me, and I finally grew up at the tender age of 40 plus, and I got a cold slap to realize my current partner. I always say to her, she's got the best version of me today because I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot, and I'm proud to talk about it because I'm thankful being there now, and I'm thankful for having to experience it. And I'm thankful to having lived flat out, to have made those mistakes, to learn. My favorite saying, there's a couple of ones, but for me, you know, when you're little and you visit your granny, they say two things. It's like they got you by the cheek and they say, "Oh, you've grown up so much," and "Woo, it's going to go so far," and Sean's going to go so far because they really know what they want, right? Well, I'm telling to you, in your 40s plus, in your 50s, if you want to go far, you must be very clear about what you don't want. And you must just switch off those buttons of noise in your life and mute them. Anything that's bad for you, bad food, bad company, bad habits, bad environments, bad people, just switch them, just mute them and turn it off and just simplify and crystallize your environment and feed your mind with healthy, constructive stuff. And as you feed your mind with this positivity, it's amazing how the life's mirror mirrors what lives in you. And if you feed it with garbage, you're going to have a mirror of garbage. And it's a simple principle I apply for me. And I don't even know if I answered your question.
Yeah, you
be
did.
careful. I talk a lot.
You definitely answered my question. It's so funny that it's interesting that I've talked to a lot of men, myself included, that we get into that zone focus, that we're just focused on work. We're focused on, getting as far as we can, as fast as we can, and we forget about the stuff that really matters. Because that job can be gone tomorrow, but that family will last forever. Will always be your family. And I learned some of the same mistakes that you did. So I appreciate you sharing that as well.
It's
You
such
know,
a
I know exactly.
powerful statement you made, both of you actually, to find balance early in your life. But more than that, get to know who you are and switch off the negativity around you. Because if you consume all of that, it consumes all of your resources and a positive life. You know, the point that you were making, Willem. Yeah, sorry to interject, but continue your advancement of
Charmaine,
the point.
it's so important, going through corporate life, being the guy, being the rainmaker, the fixer, the this, the that. You like borderline, people's about to build a statue at the front gates of the building kind of thing. And then you can go from there to being persona non grata. It just depends how the investment banker sees it roll. If you're done squeezing out the cash and you say, right, okay, what's next? Like, who are you? Things have changed. And it's like people stop taking your calls. They stop answering your mails. It's like you were never there, whether it's 10, 17, 20 years. It's like you say, jobs come and go. I liken it to, I share with people I work with how special the time is that we spend together, because I see our lives as a book. And the book of us, the book of our life, has many chapters in it. And jobs come and go. And those jobs are chapters in the book of you. It's not the whole book. It's a chapter in your book. Because we will be employable in the environments we are. If you gainfully employed by salary, there's a time and place for that, and you do your best and you look after and you build in sustainability. But beyond that, the things that would last when the job's gone, when you wake up and you look in the mirror, it's important that you really like the person you see on the other side.
You see.
And when you
Yeah.
and Charmaine, to the point you raised, you must understand who you are. And the further you go in leadership and the higher you go, the more you get tested. Ethically, culturally, your values get tested, and you must take a stand. And there's no person that people respect less that can get blown by the wind in any direction, because what is the answer? Like, what do you want it to be? You take a stand, you say what you stand for, and you're clear on what you stand against. And also, what I always share with people, if you in my consulting business, the slogan is live by design. You must live a life by design, because if you don't design your life, you'll become anybody's default, and you can never become anybody's default. You must live a purposeful life, and you must make the decisions that you always think ahead for your own well-being, your own peace of mind, and that you live a life of substance and happiness. And it's an art. If you go off track and you get involved in things you should rather not get involved in, it may be simple things, bad eating habits, bad sleeping habits, watching too much television till late at night, going to bed at 12 and waking up tired, missing your 5 o'clock training session. small things. It's the small things that add up, hey? Look, the training example is not for everyone. It's applicable to me. I'm not saying everybody should be crazy and train. It works for me. I like balancing it. But yeah, it's how you manage those, how you manage that wheel of life.
So what I'm hearing from you is the fact that you've been through this journey, very interesting, and has many colors to it. And they got to a stage in your life where you got to realize that there's more to life than just, I guess from a man's perspective, and I'm speaking to both you and Ed, there's a greater obligation to be the provider. So you tend to kind of switch off to be this provider and
Focus.
don't really balance.
Yep.
You're focused on being a provider. So balance of life and well-being is not prioritized. And sometimes you don't even realize that the negative impact that it actually has. And you spoke to that beautifully. I'm not sure whether it was beautifully, but you articulated it quite well as to being in that mindset, the detrimental impact it would have on any family. And I think there's such a powerful lesson to whoever's listening to this to go, if you have the opportunity in your early career, note this and understand that jobs come and go. You should be more an empathetic and people orientated, irrespective as to whether you have the title, because people will follow people that are good natured, kind, courageous, speak out, and endeavor to do good. Because depending who's looking at you, whether it's good or not, it's just their perception as to how they look at the world, right? As long as you can stand your ground. That's my point. Oh, I see a smirk and a smile. Say it, whatever you need to say.
Go ahead, sir. I could talk on that because lived it. I was just focused on career, and I would work on vacation. It was a time that I was carrying, when the Blackberries were very, popular. I mean, I was work on it all day, all the time. On vacation, I didn't unplug to spend time with family. And I spoke with a lot of gentlemen over the years, and we've all done the same thing. We were so busy about making sure that we're the provider and climbing that ladder and doing the best job we can at work and neglecting doing the best job we can at home. We didn't have that. A lot of us didn't have that balance.
So
Yeah, absolutely. I completely relate to that. So I'll share another little anecdote with you growing up. I've always been different growing up in Afrikaans farming community. So I wasn't there the day my mom gave birth, so I don't know whether babies got switched, but I'm told that I was born into that family. So, it was quite the standard thing. Farm produce and farm vegetables and carrots and whatever was obtained off the farm, eggs, meat, and then sheep, right? Sheep meat, goat, and they would slaughter these lambs in front of me, and I was horrified. So from the age of 4, my mom had to prepare different meals, and my dad was a typical Afrikaans. I say, what I say is lol. But from the age of 4, I refused. I would not eat what they dished up. I would not eat the little guy that I saw getting slaughtered. In fact, I want to touch any of that because it just seemed wrong to me. I didn't like that. So my mom prepared different meals for me from an early age. I did have like chicken and that kind of stuff, but I preferred fish from even then, just because I didn't like what was going on. But the other thing I never liked, in a typical Afrikaans community, my dad would go farming, my mom would be at home being the housewife, and then when he got home, he'd be served. So she would serve his meal, and he'd go into this reclining chair, and she'd bring his plate, and she'd dish it up, and I never liked that. I never liked that my mom had to be like his servant, and bless their souls, they both passed on. But they knew this. I told him this. I told my dad I didn't like that he was getting served like that. Get off your ass and get your own food kind of thing. Or be in the kitchen and help mom kind of thing, I never liked that, ever. So in my life, I don't like getting served. I like to give. I can't stand. Look, I have to confess, in the morning I do get a little espresso. It's my favorite treat of the day. But just because I like staying up late, and I get up at just after 5, but it takes a bit of coffee, you
But
know.
it's done out of love, right? I serve coffee in bed sometimes because I'm up
Yeah,
early.
yeah,
You do?
yeah. But
I do, yeah. Oh God, what do you guys think of me?
My
I have a
goodness.
heart, right?
So can you talk to my wife so I can get coffee served in bed? Just
Oh, I'm
I'm
chatting to
joking,
Flo, by the way.
talking, joking.
But
I just
but
wanted to.
Willem, that
I
is
just
such a beautiful story, though, because it kind of, not a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing. It kind
yeah.
of puts into perspective why I have so much love for you and the way you lead, because you're
Mm,
very balanced in your approach and you're not afraid to speak your mind, and you champion so many good causes that equates
mm,
to equality, respect, and respect for all of humanity, actually. So yeah, I had to say that,
yeah.
but continue.
Thanks, Charmaine. But to tie back to Ed's example, in the age of BlackBerry, and I'll never forget the first Motorola's that came out. I was the coolest
Yeah,
financial manager on the planet. I went on holiday with my little flip on the beach. I was the guy. I was the guy. It's like, you know. And little did I know, it was the worst thing. It was the start of the decay
yeah,
of society, in my opinion. You know, and sometimes I listen to men, real men, calling on radio shows, and saying, you know, I can't believe my wife is calling again, saying, where are you? You're late because, I've got to be there for dinner. I'm like, listen here, guy. You know what? Why don't you go on your knees and be thankful to whoever you pray that you have somebody that cares so much for you that she wants to prepare a meal for you. Like get out of that privilege, go live on your own, make your own damn meal, and see how that goes for you. You know it's going to happen. You're going to land up living out of restaurants and Woolworths and whatever the case might be, whatever shop you have that prepares whatever
yeah,
microwave type meal. And I look at people at having experienced loss, whether parents or relationship, whatever the case is, and you sit at a breakfast at a restaurant, and you look at people not engaging, a family of 4, and they're all on their phones. No
all of
one's
it.
talking to each other. And I go, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? But anyway, that's just to tie back to the age of BlackBerry and phones and smartphones, and the age of not being present. And to change that, to just become present. So fast forward past 2015 into the life of the AA. I was fortunate to be approached at the time. I was consulting, and my forte is optimizing businesses. We'll not use the word turnaround. Let's just say we optimize business and workflows and people. And the conversation that started in the June of 2019. I found a business with a huge brand, but the financials of the business wasn't representative of the brand. So it was just a roadside service business that was turning 90 years old. 90 years old. 60% of the member base in our club of people are older than 65. 15,000 of those people out of the 150,000 have been members for longer than I've been alive, which has been longer than 50 years, where they just they'd rather go without a meal before they cancel their roadside service membership. So it was a wonderful opportunity as a consumer advocacy brand. I said it's frowning. If I need to explain that, I'm happy to. The opportunity being a consumer advocacy brand, fighting for consumer rights with such a strong brand was an easy thing to do, because also within our alliance with the Fédération Internationale de Automobile in France, which governs Formula One racing and rules and mobility. that a lot of clubs in Europe, Germany, New Zealand, Australia, AAA in Canada, AAA in America, CA in Canada, that we could learn from them, the Norwegians, etc. And then what we started doing is just diversify the business into 4 new pillars. So we started a financial services business where we sell short-term insurance to motorists, motor vehicle warranties. We started service centers where you can go and have your vehicle serviced, especially if it's post-plan. South Africans drive their vehicles for longer. Then we started a technology business where we have IoT devices and armed response services. Let's just call it emergency services. So typically, if you hit your panic button, you'd get a call saying, hey, what's your emergency? A bit like 9/11, what's your emergency? And then our travel business, where we sell international driving permits and the like. So we've diversified away, but through all of that theme, especially through our emergency service application, we saw a huge opportunity to make a big difference in our country regarding gender-based violence. It's a pandemic, more so in a country with unemployment rate soaring to 35%, as much as 68%.
35? It's much higher than that.
What do you think it is? I know the youth component of that is at 68%. 68% of youth cannot find work in it.
It's all because they do not take account of people that are no longer looking for work. So it seems to be 35, but it's actually much higher than that. It's close to it's over 40 actually.
Yeah. So with Charmaine's help, I mean, Charmaine's been so wonderful and active in our environment. We created a wonderful song called Rise to spread good news within our communities in the country. We've done so many recordings and podcasts, sharing with many, many different people as to this pandemic we face. You know, a big challenge we face in our country is that a lot of kids grow up without having a father in their homes, broken families, single mums, single dads, that kind of thing. So there's so much that we can do to spread good news within our environment. And moving forward, we're starting our own broadcast division. We're looking at starting AA Media, AA Radio, coming out of media for a long time. And there's many clever ways that we can do that, where we can have these channels where we communicate with the population of South Africa. 7 odd million vehicles in our country, and only about 28% of them are insured. So the opportunity in our business is so large. But when all is said and done, the Automobile Association is about people. It's about its members, customers, and staff. That's really what it's about. And we've had a really good 2.5 years from coming out of very, very big trouble and doing fairly well as of December last year.
What he's trying to say is he's a very impactful leader. There's no doubt about it. But Ed has a question, and then I'm going to come back with another question. Ed, you go.
I want to switch gears a little bit. I noticed that you guys have an outstanding campaign going on. And it's a gender-based violence campaign that your organization has got going on, and you're leading. I'd love to know the genesis of that, and why is that important to you?
Let me go first, Charmaine, and then you can add to that. So the public services in our country regarding policing services and the like has come under huge pressure and strain, and they do not have the means or the ability to reach communities to the extent that they needed to get to. We realized that through technology and through our brands, we could provide an alternative solution directly to consumers for the benefit of our club, not so much for commercial gain, but because of doing the work that really matters by protecting people and protecting their lives, that we could use technology that could aid the safety and security of South Africans, and in particular more so, especially women, where you find that in a strained economy, providers lose jobs, and particularly male providers that in the old conventional way of thinking that the man must be the man of the house, and if he can't provide that, he loses his identity, he loses his masculinity. You may even find that the lady in the home may then become the provider and often it creates an environment of stress and pressure, and horrible things can happen. You throw in a bit of alcohol abuse and substance abuse and the like, and you have a terrible situation where women especially get abused at home. And, where do they go? Phoning police service isn't really going to get you far in terms of getting response and help. As early as last Friday, we saved a person's life. Person hit the button, was getting attacked, and within 7 minutes, we had armed response services at the house with an ambulance. We provided trauma counseling, and we saved a person's life. Now, for me, that is incredibly powerful as a service to our community, and doing the things that a non-profit organization should be doing with the funds that we're getting from our members. So it's really about caring for our community and providing a backstop where the services we should be getting through our taxes is failing us, and we are rising to the challenge to be that stopgap.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So you saw a need, you guys took care of the need, but why was it important to you? Because what I've noticed is when people get behind something like that, there's usually a story that resonates with them. My wife and I have a nonprofit that focuses on sexual assault and domestic violence. And the reason why we have it is because it's basically her story of her life. And I speak with a lot of people in that area regarding gender-based violence. And a lot of times organizations are started because of someone experienced something like that. And I was wondering, do you have a story that you're willing to share at this time as to why you went behind this campaign so hard?
I think it's synchronicity and the conversion of events in one's life. In our closest circle, people that's close to me have had horrible experiences in their personal lives, and knowing these people, they bounce back and they're bubbly and energetic and energized, and they carry on living, and I'm inspired by that. But I can most certainly share a story with you. I was a financial manager at what was then Gallo Music in 1998, and our creditors clerk, her name was Charmaine Kuberg, a colored lady that lived in Lenasia, and she'd come to work often on Mondays wearing sunglasses, and I'd go and say, hey, me being me is like, hey, the sun's not really out. What's up, man? And you'd see she'd been beaten, and my heart really went out to her, and we helped her in time. It took a year to get a restraining order, but I've also learned, those things are fairly meaningless, because we had an event at Sun City, which is a conferencing venue in the Pilanesberg, and there wasn't couples invited, so we went to a dealer function, awards function, and we were sharing tables, different staff sat at different tables, nothing untoward. And this lady's husband pitched up there, drunk, and he made a huge scene at this event, much to her embarrassment, and he got thrown out. And the next morning, he presented himself at the breakfast lounge at one of the hotels, made another scene. And the long story short, leaving on the Sunday morning, that Sunday afternoon, he stabbed her to death, multiple times, and through that, he then took his own life. And all of our staff and us went to the funeral, and having experienced that firsthand, to see the helplessness what this lady had to endure, and the kids having come onto the scene after this had happened, really stuck with me. So when the opportunity came, when we were approached to say, we could utilize the service we have and work with each one, hold one, and then collate all of these things, it wasn't even a question for me, because where do people go if you're really in trouble? How do you survive something like that? So that's a personal life story I'm willing to share. And yeah, I don't know. It changes your life, when you see something like that. So, and the problem is, there's thousands like her. She didn't make it. So if we can help people um, through education, through information, by perhaps normalizing it, where there are so many victims, not to their own fault, and sometimes people get indoctrinated to such an extent where after a while they feel like maybe they deserve it, and the horrors that come with all of that. So I hope that shares a bit of my personal drive as to why
Thank
I'm
you.
passionate about it. But even beyond that, I want to do good, and I want to see people flourish and be safe and well
Yeah.
beyond all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Charmaine, I know you had a
He's such an
question.
incredible. No, actually, the question is not important. Actually, you've actually raised it, and he's demonstrated what a powerful leader he is, though, because you use your life's journey to be able to drive positive outcomes, and it's never always, or you don't focus on the profitability. I mean, you do. You're very smart, and you've turned around businesses that made good money. But when you do good as well, and you champion good causes, and have a brain, heart. Um, Good things actually happen though. And I think the reason you get to not live that balanced life is because you're not just pushing profitability. I mean, people enjoy working for you. You're lobbying for a national change in the country for everybody to be unified in love and peace. Um, you create employment. You talk to everybody across the business, and even in the streets. I've seen you because I'm very observant. I just check those guys that pretend to be. Oh, I'm a great leader in the boardroom because the executives, non-executives have to check it out, and outside is completely different. So you're not a chameleon, and that's what we need. Actually, we need more people to break the stereotypes because you're not a typical person the way the outside world sees you. You're a leader with a heart, and your goal is to make a meaningful difference. And you could have ignored Charmaine's story
Yeah.
and forgotten about it as a coping mechanism, but you didn't. You wanted to make a difference, and that's what. If everybody could do one little thing, not a big thing like that, how different the world would be, right?
Yeah.
If every leader, whether in a position or not, just changed the narrative, a kinder world will be, in my opinion. So yeah, is it like, do you have another question for this amazing man? Because I could sit and listen to him the whole day.
I'm enjoying the conversation. I'm enjoying the character of the man more than anything else. I appreciate what you've shared, what you're doing, and how you're serving people. When you said people drive you, that right there struck a chord with me. Because you are, we hear a lot of people talking about servant leaders, and I get tired of the word because we have a lot of people overusing it and not being a servant. But you're doing being a servant leader by your actions, not just by words. So I appreciate you. Keep up the amazing work that you're doing because we need more individuals in our society like you.
Thanks, Ed.
I have to.
You know, Sean's, it's so important, you must have congruence between what we think, say, and do. And me being an
Absolutely.
analytical human, I listen to anyone, but I won't necessarily subscribe until I see that people's action match what they say and think. So, I mean, that is so important. And, there's this, capitalist societies, and the drive to the pursuit of significance, where we get labeled by the title we hold and what we earn and what car we drive and the circle of friends we have and all the wasteful hours that's spent promoting yourself at dinner parties to let people understand how amazing you are and what school your kids go to, and where your next holiday is going to be. You know what? Whatever. It's like whatever. Just whatever. If all of that had to fall today, if capitalist structures had to fall, everybody had enough money that money is not a question, who would you be? Like, who are you? Like, if your title had to fall, I'll never forget. I sat in a bus one day at a very, very fancy corporate function, and a guy sat in front of me that was a senior executive at a massive bank in South Africa, and I was listening. I couldn't help it. He was talking so loud, saying that he's facing the biggest crisis of his life. And the crisis was that he had to retire. He's out of his job. And bankers last in those positions for 20 years plus, many of them. And suddenly he came back to just being another name in society with whatever savings he had. But he had no more influence and no power and nobody to boss around and no title to hold on to, because often people in those positions become their title,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes so far as,
That's what defines them.
there's even Mrs. CEO, never mind that, or whichever way it goes. Some ladies work, so it could be Mr. CEO married to Mrs. CEO. And it's all these titles and all these rites of passages that they command, which they don't really. So I guess we've got to ask ourselves, what is our fiber? What are we really made of? If they strip your title and you lose your job, can you recreate yourself today? And what value can you provide in this world? And what influence can you create that, should I not have my job tomorrow and people hear that I don't have it? How many people would call up and say, hey, we like what you've done here. Why don't you come and spend some time with us and see what we can do together? And the other thing is, the wisdom of nations, no single person ever makes the best decision. The best decisions are derived from the combined knowledge of people that you rely on and that you learn from. And the more you learn, it's a standing, Charmaine will see at our board meeting, it's a standing challenge to the young ladies in our business. We've appointed 3 new chartered accountants. And the challenge is out to them, like, work me out of my job. Like, how long is it going to take? And maybe the board will be kind enough to send me off in a kind, gentle way. But I'm saying, come on, I'm not here to put you in a slow lane. We need to grow. We need to advance. We need to excel for the benefit of the business. And so it's easy to speak of things when it lives in you and when it's in your heart, that you don't have to make up stuff. And once you can drive culture in such a way that this authenticity and this belief, like when people take bonuses, it's no good if a few people at a high level that earns a lot of money takes bonuses and the people down below never sees a cent. So for me, everybody gets or no one gets. So and that unifies.
You are incredible, though, the way you champion change, the way you embrace the young people and open doors. And what I love about you, Willem, if I'm allowed to say it, is the fact that you are confident in who you are and you give off your knowledge, your skills, and you make people feel confident in the business to shine. Some leaders want to dim the light, whereas you are like, and you just don't walk, you walk the talk. I mean, I can see the effective transformation and the difference that you make. I see the projects that you run so effectively to drive meaningful change, not just for the business though, but for the South Africans as a whole. And what I love about you is that you've used your learnings, and you've always appeared to be very curious, to be able to look at the world with an open mind, not with the blinkers that some of us actually have. And the beauty of that is you are empathetic, courageous, not afraid to fail. And okay, you tend to succeed more of the times. But the point I'm making is you do what's right and not what is going to line your pockets. That's what I appreciate about you.
So thank you, Charmaine.
No.
What I was going to say to you, my favorite quote is from Mark Twain, saying, "The problem isn't what we don't know; it is what we know for certain that just isn't so."
Mm-hmm.
And it means that
Interesting.
a lifetime is not enough to learn. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
have an insatiable hunger to learn because I have many flaws and I still make many mistakes, but they are diminishing over time. And as the day that we stop
The,
learning is the
fa-
day that we should check out.
the humility to be able to acknowledge that we have flaws
Mm.
is what we actually need. Most people are in denial, and therefore the leadership style is often not admirable, if I can say so. Willem, you've done a lot of things. I mean, we didn't manage to get through all of it, but if you had a magic wand, this is usually Ed's question, but I'm going to actually ask you to move humanity forward. What would you do, or what
I
would you
would
use it
remove
for?
I would reduce the exposure to social media, first point, um, to help people become more present and
Okay.
find a way find a way where this drive of Western philosophy is parted with, and the image of success and what success is supposed to look like. The typical cookie cutter, the house you drive, the car, the house you own, the car you drive, your social circles, your PhDs, your whatever you have. Um, if we could just all get real, COVID was probably one of the most horrifying, but at the same time, most of the most beautiful things,
Humbling.
where the earth had time to breathe. I traveled up to the north into the mountains where we normally, you could just drive, but we could hardly get through there without a 4x4 vehicle because it became so lush. I saw animals roaming around, which I have never seen before. And to move humanity forward, Charmaine, it's just tolerance, kindness, patience, love, just the simple word love.
Yeah.
People are so stressed out. People are really, really stressed out. I mean, the concept of kindness, maybe it's my view. Maybe you have a different experience, but people have become so tense that they've gone into a survival type behavioral mode, whether financially or pressure wise, people losing jobs, businesses closing down because of COVID. When maybe to move humanity forward, maybe we all should just reassess that maybe we really don't need that much to be happy. Maybe having a little bit less is not such a bad thing. Maybe we should have a little bit more of the things that really matter.
Yeah.
Deep relationships, loving relationships, somebody that you could care about. Helping somebody in need. And I'm not just saying this because whatever. So I went for surgery in January. I tore the labrum in my left hip, which means it's just the cartilage was torn, and I've done endurance sports all my life. And I got back to running again. So I run on my loop in my little village, and past comes this guy at double the pace. And I shouted at him. I was hey man, what you on? How can you run this fast? So turns out, in the estate we live, so I work for the AA, so I'm happy to confess this, right? In the estate we live, the speed limit is 30 kilometers an hour. So I got trapped at 41 k's an hour, and I got a fine. I got a 900 rand fine, right? And I got out the car. His name is Becky, and I thanked him. Said, Becky, you know what? Thank you so much for this fine, for reminding me that I should drive 30. I was going too fast. And thank you for the job you're doing. He couldn't believe what I was telling him. It's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
If I catch people that want to hit me, turns out the guy running past me was Becky. And I said, what you doing? So we've got this marathon in South Africa called the Comrades. And it's his dream to run a silver medal. So he's preparing for the medal. So I finished my run, get to the gate, and I said, so what's your story? And I said, what do you eat? What nutrition do you have? He says, no, he doesn't have anything. He just drinks water and eats maize meal and whatever. And I said, you know what? So what I'm going to do, because you do law enforcement and speed enforcement, as the AA, we would like to tell your story. So we are going to sponsor you for return flights down to Durban to run the Comrades on the down. We're going to give you supplements. and we're going to tell you a story. Come to our office and come tell us about the work you do to provide safer communities and pedestrian safety and road safety, and share your challenges as to how people behave when they're blatantly wrong and fighting with you when they should be thanking you. And this guy didn't know what to say to me. He's like, what is going on here? So now we're gonna help Becky. We're gonna go down to the comrades. We're gonna support him. We're gonna push him over the line to get the silver medal. So those are small things. I don't even know why I told you this, but I guess it comes down to people. It's about people.
It's such a powerful thing, Willem, because what you do is you talk to all people, and the power of conversation to get to know people gives you that opportunity to support, and greater good can come out of it. Yes. That's what I love about you. The ability, I mean, he drives in the buckies with the drivers that no CEO in the AA have ever done that. And the rapport and the connection, and just see, Sawubona, I see you. It's like, I see you. It's a greeting. That's what he actually does. So the reason you were here, Mr. Groenewald, in addition to demystifying the myths about Afrikaans, Boere is Afrikaans, farmer, Boerewors, and all of those things. It's about talking about your leadership and the impact that you have in the boardroom and outside of the boardroom. An effective human being, an authentic human being, stays the same no matter which environment it is, to have the desired positive impact. So thank you for doing you, and thank you for the impact that you make. Can't wait to hear about Becky's story, and so much love and light to you. And I'm genuinely grateful for what you put out there. So thank you. Do you have a final statement? You have literally 30 seconds.
Well, to you, the most humblest person I know, the wonderful work you do, Charmaine. You're an amazing person and energize me, and you make me laugh. She's an amazing dancer, by the way, Ed.
I know she likes to dance.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Ed. It's wonderful to spend some time with you. And
yes.
In closing for me, I laugh when people say, so Willem, who is Willem at home, away from the boardroom? And I'm like, it's still the same Willem. There's just one of me. I'm no different at the office or at the sports field or at home. I'm just the same person. So in closing, congruence. What we think, say, and do must be the same. And in humility and knowing that we don't know, and that from people sharing space and time with great souls like you, because of you, we become stronger as a whole. That's the bottom line, because our lives are so incredibly short, and we don't realize that, do we?
Well, we don't. For spending some time with. Go ahead, Charmaine. Yep.
No, you go.
I was just going to say thank you for spending some time with us in the Ubuntu House. We really appreciate you, value you as an individual and as a leader. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. We need more leaders in companies like you. We appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This has been another Ubuntu Connected conversation. If you need us, if we can serve you in any way at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. Take care. God bless. Be well, everyone.
Thanks, Willem. Cheers, everyone. Take care.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.